The next presenter should be Wafa Nouari, right? Are you present? I can't see the
Yes, I
name.
am.
Okay, so your topic is exploring Poiesis in the digital age, fostering cross-cultural communication and personal growth through AI-assisted poetry education. So, if you are ready, I think you should be able to share the screen if you need it, if you need a presentation,
Yes,
and
of course.
you may begin.
So can you see my presentation now? I'm in my PPT.
Sorry?
Can you see my PPT now? My
Yes, we
PowerPoint?
can see the PowerPoint, right?
Yes. So shall I start?
Maybe first, show us how you are going to move through the slides, just to see if it works.
Like this.
Okay, so it will work. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So whenever
All
you are
right.
ready.
Okay, thank you so much. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our work. I am Dr. Wafa Nouari from Badnatur University. The topic of my presentation today is exploring poesis in the digital age. So, I am going to study the role of poesis, let's say, to deliver lessons, whether in ethics, in politics, let's say in education, in philosophy, whatever the domain, it's how can let's say poesis, how can this type of writing, it's more than poetry, can transform and can enhance the students, let's say, cultural background, or link students, or let's say link cultures with each other in the digital age, that really enhances communication, that really integrates ideas with each other, cultures with each other more, let's say, quicker, or let's say easier. So, fostering cross cultural communication and personal growth through AI assisted poetry education. So, simply, it's how AI poetry, or let's say how AI enhances students' education. Of course, the content is going to be poetry, means how to teach poetry through AI tools. So, as you know, we move now to the introduction. As you know, all today's age is the age of, rapidity and so on, but we still need to stick on, let's say, the aesthetic sense of, let's say, the text or of the content that we teach our students. We should not forget, let's say, the taste, or let's say the beauty of literature. Sorry, within this let's say time of hurry, and everything is technological, everything is ready made, we should like take our time, or have like a moment to think very well about the beauty of the text. And when we speak about the beauty of the text, we always refer to poetry. We always give it perhaps more value than the other types of, let's say, texts. So, poetry would be a very valuable tool to teach students, as I told you, human experiences, contemporary literature, ethical lessons, philosophy, history. We can give a piece of information simply through poesis. So, this is poesis. It's the kind of writing that includes a message and could be a tool to teach people, let's say, any kind of, let's say, human experience. And let's say AI today can really help us teaching students, let's say, or let's say any context, or any, let's say, piece of writing that we want to do. This study explores how poesis intersects within modern technology. As I do insist on using modern technology in teaching, let's say, courses. And if we teach poesis, include, let's say, a beneficial context within, or content within, let's say, this tool, or through this tool, really poetry education could be enhanced. So by integrating AI tools into this creative, if you want, piece of writing, educators can really foster personal growth. So the growth, or let's say the flourishing of the students' levels, could be really seen through, let's say, teaching Poiesis through AI. This has been found by several, let's say, studies, and even by this study. I mean, this is the basic contribution of this study. The main question is, how can AI assisted poetry education foster personal growth and facilitate cross-cultural communication? So besides to movies and besides to novels of the other side, or of the English word, or the other part, we have today the AI tools, and we cannot really ignore, let's say, the spreading of these tools, and we can even, or we can ensure its spreading or control in the future. So these AI tools can really be beneficial. So what would happen if we use like Poiesis in the content, and through this tool of AI, of this mediating tool of AI, to teach students Poiesis, to teach them how to taste, let's say, poetry, and how to learn from poetry? This is the question. What would happen? Is it going to be effective or not? So the objectives are simply to study, let's say, how can this work effectively, or let's say we are going to explore, if you want, if really AI tools are effective to teach poetry, or are really more accessible. The structure of this paper includes introduction, which introduces the topic. We have literature review that, let's say, highlights the main previous studies dealing with this, if you want, theme. And we have also methodology, which, it highlights the research design that follows, or that uses interventions in the classroom, and case studies and observations of the students. In the findings number 4, we found that AI's role in enhancing self-discovery and intercultural dialogue is enhanced, of course, let's say at the end of the study. In the discussion, or in the conclusion, let's say, implications for education, the implications, of course, of AI for education and global learning communities to teach Poiesis is really effective, or we found that it is really effective. So we'll go very quickly to the literature review. So in this part, we tried to gather like the most recent and relevant studies that highlight the importance of AI in education, and specifically in teaching creative writing, and exactly Poiesis, and how can AI really, or in which sense it is, let's say, positive, or it is significant to use AI to teach Poiesis, and how it can be, let's say, effective in teaching poetic, or let's say, poetry. So we tried to gather several studies. I forgot to mention some examples here, that they found that AI, let's say, tools are very effective in teaching students, let's say, poetry, and exactly in the sense that it helps them, let's say, see or detect, let's say, if you want, the message from the poem, the main ideas, the specific style, and so on and so forth. And exactly, it enhances the student's comprehension of the poem, let's say, quicker than the old way of just reading a poem, let's say, from a book or something like that. So the AI means it's an audio, sometimes it is an audio visual, it is something like very effective in transforming the message from a merely written text to their perception. And then we move to the methodology. So the paper is really using, or in the paper, we used a mixed method approach. We combined like between the qualitative, in the sense that we analyzed themes of poems and so on, and let's say classroom interventions, because we used, let's say, this tool in the class, of course, with case studies. I mean, with quantitative study, we like selected some students. Concerning the sample, it consists of a group of students or participants who normally are like aware of AI and AI tools and how to use them and so on, from different, let's say, students who have different cultural backgrounds, to see how can really AI affect, or let's say integrates these, or not, or helps students to get integrated culturally. I'm talking about concerning the data collection. The strategy we used to collect our data is simply observations in the classroom, observing the students' feedbacks, the students' reflections, and even we analyzed, of course, the poetry outputs, let's say, after the learning this if you want, process. So we also analyzed themes, or thematic analysis was conducted to identify key patterns in self-expression or self-discovery and personal growth and the cultural communication. So these are like the three main themes that we focused on: self-expression, personal growth, and cross-cultural communication. So we move to the findings and discussion. We found that, or this study finds that AI enhances comprehension and expression in poetry. It facilitates self-discovery and personal growth through poetic exploration. So these findings are compared to teaching poetry without using AI. And we really, let's say, notice this, I mean, before using AI and after using AI. So AI bridges cultural gaps, fostering intercultural dialogue and understanding, encourages innovative teaching methods. And I do underline this point because in this age we are like in an urgent need to find innovative teaching methods, more than just the board or the simple, if you want, design of the classroom, because today's students are digital students. Say revolution, but after they read these poems, I gave them other poems about similar theme, and I asked them to try, let's say, to write poems similar to these poems. And before and after using the GPT, I used GPT and I found really a big difference, in the sense that I asked them to use GPT to correct their grammatical mistakes, for example, to add some words to make these poems perhaps read, let's say, aesthetically, let's say, deeper. And after they used the GPT, they gave me two versions. The first version is their own version, and the second one is enhanced with the GPT. Of course, the GPT helped them, as I told you, to improve the style and even, let's say, add specific touch. Of course, here I insisted on not to rely totally on GPT. So they wrote the first version in order to see their level, to see their ideas, to see what they really understood from what I gave them. And then I asked them to use AI tools, and since they were first year students, I just used the GPT since they know how to use it. So when they compared the two texts, they saw by themselves, by their own eyes, what is or what was the difference. I mean, some grammatical mistakes, some words has been added in order, as I told you, to give more, let's say, sense to these poems, and at the same time, their own touch, let's say their own, if you want, yes, touch was kept in the poem. I mean, I told them to keep the original ideas, the originality of the poem, but just GPT can add not only grammatically, but even, as I told you, add some words like some perhaps, let's say, a line to better, let's say, help them to improve the poems. And I asked them to write a paragraph to explain what they learned from this experience of using GPT, and is it really effective in helping them to understand the poem and to improve their poems? And they said yes. This is concerning the first experience. The second one was like with imagination. I again asked them to write about an imaginative futuristic, let's say, personality that will happen after 100 years. And they tried to imagine robots and things like that. And we kept these pieces away. And we went to another AI tools, which is I forget its name. My God, it is premium normally. I forget its name really. It's not GPT, the other one, which is also very famous. Claude. It's a Claude AI. Yeah, it's a Claude AI. And even Claude AI helped them in enhancing imagination. And we wanted to taste whether the AI tools are effective even in imagination. We thought that imagination is given only to humans. And we found that even in imagination, Claude AI can help students to improve their imagination, like adding some characteristics to their, for example, hero in the story, and so on and so forth. And even when it comes to poems, we used a tool which transforms a poem into a video, like a person speaking with you, and let's say, saying like now, for example, we can use someone to, let's say, to introduce this event, which in fact he is not a human being, he is just a robot. So the robot explains, let's say, the poem, or reads the poem in a poetic way, and they just listen and they see this AI figure in the class using data show. And really this helps them once they saw the vision or the character, once they heard this voice, even though it is not a human or typically original, it really helps them. The British accent, his or its facial features, the way he uses his hands, it's the sound helps really students to understand. So I really used AI to test students, whether in their writing or even in the comprehension and listening skills, and really it works very well. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for